Good morning, Biblionauts. I am Grix, and just like any other bidimensional human on the cosmology of BookTube, or YouTube in general, I do appreciate you subscribing, so please, if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe. And today I wanted to talk about a video that Mark at Book Time with Elvis made, talking about how he approaches the classics. And I love the video and I agreed with pretty much everything he said. He has a very friendly way of approaching classics and also encouraging people to approach them. It's the kind of booktuber that made me want to read Les Miserables, for example. You know, a long book that I do know for a fact that has loads of digressions. But I would refer to how I approach my classics a bit differently, because I have a duality. I have a I'm loving that word lately. I have two kinds of classics that and there are the classics that I read and those that I don't read. And through why do I succeed at reading these kind of classics and I don't succeed at reading this kind of classic, might help you knowing which is the best way, the better way to approach the classics. Especially if you have other things in your life going on. If you don't have any things going on in your life and you like reading, then why haven't you already read them all? But when you have to do other things that require your energy and presence and attention and everything, then you have to be economic when it comes to reading, and also a bit, I don't want to say self-compassionate, but understand the situation. I work, not at the moment, but because I'm living, but I normally work, I study, I have a bunch of things to do that I love to do. They are not obligations, but they are priorities for me. Writing is one of them. So by the time I get to read what I want to read, and I finish my academic reading and everything, by the time I get to read what I want to read, I can only do so much of it, and I can only do it with so much attention and effort. When it comes to classics, the easiest way for me to approach them is to assume that it's a book that I'm going to reread and not try to cover all the ground the first time. So that is the number one thing that allows me to, for example, when I read the Odyssey, I was like, okay, I'm going to reread this probably in 3 other languages. And it's a great book to reread, and also is the classic, right? So let's just really push through. Don't even reread if you didn't understand a paragraph. Just get through the book. And that's what I did. And I read the Odyssey. After a long time not being able, I failed with the Iliad because I was looking for the right conditions to do it. So why did I read the Odyssey? Because I basically had no respect for Homer. That is the second, the double-faced thing that I'm trying to say here. One is you have to have some understanding of your own situation and how much you can dedicate to a book, how much time, how much attention and everything. And also, you shouldn't elevate any book or any author. Just read it as a book. It's just a bunch of pages. You just pass them looking at the lines, and eventually you get to the end. I made a tutorial on how to do that. I'll link that in the description. It's the ultimate guide to reading. But with Tolstoy, it might be even a better example, because Tolstoy, I dislike Tolstoy. I read Anna Karenina this year, 2023. Oh my god, time. I also read some of his shorter stories, and I also read The Death of Ivan Illich. And the reason why Tolstoy is so easy for me to pick up is because maybe because he's being so often called the best writer ever, and that already touched my egocentric post-teenager mentality or whatever. But I basically came ready to demolish Tolstoy. I was like, fuck Tolstoy, and because of that, I didn't see Tolstoy as one of these crazy classics that I cannot cognize the complexity of their meaning or bullshit like that. I just was, okay, this is a guy who wrote and people think he's very good. Let's see how good he is. and I just opened, and not War and Peace, I'm still going through it, but I just opened Anna Karenina and I read it. That is the best approach. That's the approach that I can recommend, is read a book, or read, especially classics, read them with absolute disrespect for the author, absolute, I know that I don't know if disrespect is the right word to use, but what I'm trying to say is that you should not, they shouldn't feel imponent. They are just books with pages, and to be fair, most of the times, those towering figures in the history of literature were not that great or interesting as people, and often, you know, if you were to meet them in person, they would actually come across as not very different from the people that you already have in your life. So it's not like, you know, this is not you're not reading the words of a prophet, you're not reading a sacred text, you're reading just a piece of literature, some guy in his house or whatever, thinking about things and then making up a story. So approach it as someone stopping you in the street and telling you a very long anecdote, and if the anecdote is very interesting and it's keeping you interested, then you read it. And if at some point it's like, oh my god, you've been speaking for 2 hours about the way in which you wipe your ass, I'm not so interested on that, then you just close the book and next. I think that is the right approach when it comes to classics, for reading classics the first time, especially, because this is not about rereading. This is a video about reading, how I approach classics, reading them. But then, you know, every now and then I do have a different way of thinking about classics and classic authors, which is I think the most generalized way of seeing them, especially by non-readers. And they are non-readers for a reason, and it's because they think, oh, Shakespeare. Okay, I guess if I read Shakespeare, I have to understand who Shakespeare was, the historical period, know every single word that was said in this book, maybe watch all the plays first, maybe watch all the movie adaptations as well, maybe read a biography, and then can I finally approach Shakespeare. Which means, you know, if you have that approach, you will never really read the book, unless you have nothing to do, unless you finally happen to have that idyllic time where you happen to be on a retreat, or you broke a leg and you have to be on the hospital for a certain amount of time, and then you can do what you wanted to do. You can finally do that project, which you will most likely not do, as Italo Calvino warns you in his book about reading. So that's my piece of mind for this. Don't respect Shakespeare, don't look up to Shakespeare, don't see him as... When you read any book, don't think of the author as, even if they are the most important writing that's ever been, or even if they wrote the most incredible book, or that's what everyone has been telling you since you were born, that, you know, whatever book this person wrote is the book that you should read before you die. Whether or not that is true, you should suspend this belief and take the book for what it is, which is just a piece of paper with a lot of words in it. And see the author horizontally. Don't look at the author as, oh my god, you know, I have to climb up there to be on the level of this. No, you know, I'm sure they were all, you know, they were all just people. And I don't know that this is something that anyone needed to hear, but if you did, let me know, because I definitely would have started reading much earlier if I had the same approach towards books and authors that I have towards people in the street. You know, again, imagine someone telling you a very long anecdote. They will come to you and tell you, hey, I have something very important to tell you. It will take me 10 hours. Okay, if it's the right moment, if you are not running to work or someone died and you have to go to the hospital, you might be interested because someone tells you that. The first thing, my reaction would be interest. Like, okay, you have to tell me something for 10 hours. All right, let's see what it is. But if after the first couple of minutes, I can see that what they're saying makes no sense and is not interesting or relevant whatsoever, then I'll tell them to... I'll tell them bye. I'll say bye. So let the book speak. Of course, if that person that is coming to you and trying to tell you this very long anecdote called Moby Dick has 100 people that you know that has told you that what they have to say is really, really good, that you should listen to it because it's a really good story, then you might want to give them a bit more a bit more of the more benefit of the doubt than you would normally give to a random person that you don't know. If I pick a modern book, I am much less tolerant with what I'm reading than if I pick a classic, because when I am reading a classic, I know that there is a chance that I might be missing out, that I might be the one who's wrong. When I'm reading a book that's been published in the last 20 years, it's more likely that if I'm not liking the book, it's because it's a bad book. But either way, you should only have so much respect for the author and so much awareness of the relevance of the book. Just take it for what it is. Once again, piece of paper, words, put one after the other until they make some sense, and if they make the kind of sense that you want to read, then read it. I eventually will emancipate myself from my problem with Shakespeare. Not problem in the sense of not reading him. I have read some Shakespeare, but the only reason why I've never picked up this book is because when I want to read, cover to cover, and I want to be watching plays at the same time. I want to have like a immersive Shakespeare month. And that's probably the reason why I haven't read Shakespeare yet, like all of the plays and all of the sonnets. And that is me not predicating with example. So maybe I should be reading Shakespeare next month. We'll see. Until then, I hope this was in any way helpful or interesting to hear. That's how I approach classics. I'll link Mark's video in the description. And please do tell me, how do you approach classics? Is there a third way that I missed? If there is, let me know either in the comments or make a video. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Thank you, BookTube.